Hi, Matt from Modern Samurai here, and today we're going to be having a chat about the interview when it comes to self-defense. Now, obviously, guys, if you can, please subscribe, click the bell notification, and leave us a comment of anything you'd like discussed or talked about in future episodes. So, for today, we're talking about the interview. I'm out with the dog, got a bit of time, so I thought I'd use it to do this. So, what is the interview, first of all? Well, when we're looking at a self-defense situation, that is the usually the precursor to a physical attack. So essentially what happens is the bad guy, whomever that is, actually puts you through an interview process to see whether or not you would make a suitable victim, and your actions and behaviours and speech, basically everything that you do during the course of that interview will actually determine whether or not you walk away as a victim or you walk away as somebody that was deemed too hard a target. So, and when I say hard target, I don't necessarily mean, you know, bulking up to 18 stone and having tattoos all over your head. I mean just having the wherewithal and the common sense to react accordingly to the situation. Now, again, this is something that isn't often trained, but I saw the necessity for this many times working the doors. Over the years of doing that, I saw this exact situation play out countless times, and almost always, without exception, it could have been avoided. Quite often it could have been avoided. Not always, because there's always a difference in the rule set, but in the main it could have been avoided if the person had reacted in the correct manner. So what do I mean by that? Well, firstly, if you're being interviewed, you're being interviewed because there's a very big suspicion in the bad guy or guys that you are a victim. And so how did they reach that conclusion? You know, what have you done to put yourself into that category? So is it you're wearing the wrong colours on football day, or is it that you speak with the wrong accent, or is it you're in the wrong part of town, or any things like that? So first and foremost, is it a situation that you could have avoided just by, making a different choice? Okay, which is quite often the case. Quite often people find themselves in difficult situations because they've just sort of ended up there. And again, I could use my time working on security as a perfect example, because there were many times you had guys go into very loud, busy nightclubs, and in those nightclubs there's a lot of aggression, there's a lot of violence, and so the odds are that you will at least be aware of it, if not a victim of it. And it's almost accepted now. The people going out these days, they accept that violence is just part of a Saturday night. So with that in mind, we have to look and say, right, well, how responsible can we be for that particular situation? So have we made some wrong choices along the way to get there? Right. So once we've established that we're already there, then what happens then? So how we react, how we answer the question, how we present, how our body language is, all of these things are going to make a big difference, because we have to bear in mind that body language is only is the largest percentage of how we communicate, and speech is the smallest part. So it's not about what we say so much as how we react and what we do, because you can speak all the right words, but your body can still be screaming victim, or I'm afraid, or I'm unsure, and that's what will be picked up. It's the same with when you're dealing with a dog or an aggressive animal, right? They pick up the body language and the feeling from you, not the words that you speak. So when we're talking about this, we have to sort of bear that in mind, because body language and how we posture and all the rest of it is massively important, but very underrated when it comes to confrontational skills. Okay, so we have to look at that. So what we don't want to do is be getting into a thing called verbal tennis. So we don't want to be engaging in any type of conversation that's going to sort of bat the ball back if we can possibly help it. So, I mean, if we think about the usual stuff, what you staring at kind of thing. Now, if you say I'm not, then instantly you've just upped the ante by, he's going to reply with, you're calling me a liar now, So you've got to be careful that you're not batting the ball back, as they say. All right, and you do not want to end with a question. So if you said, as an example, after he said, what are you looking at? And you said, oh, I'm not looking at you. All right, mate. What you're doing is you're actually, asking a question and asking his permission. Okay, so that's equally as bad. That's still batting the ball back. So the way to go about that is to try and find a way where you can respond to that question that isn't going to up the ante, but is also just going to make sure that you're aware that that you are actually capable, confident and able, and it's not that you want a court confrontation, but if it is sort of brought to your door, you can handle that situation. So I mean, that's one of the main things I get wrong with people when we're talking about conflict management. Is I hear so many people out there say that, oh right, okay, well the physical skills aren't as important as the soft skills, and they're right. They're, you know, the soft skills are your number one thing. However, if you haven't got the physical capability and the knowledge to back it up, you're literally like a yapping chihuahua, right? You're literally going to be taking that seriously, because you can't actually back up the things that you're saying. So you can present whatever kind of strong, confident front that you like, when the truth is the very physicality of you, the inability to actually know how to fight is it makes all that conversation redundant. So it's worth understanding that, because we're not talking about physical skills today, but having a good grounding in physical skills actually makes you far less likely to be chosen for this interview in the first instance, because you're going to be deemed to be not worth the hassle. You know, it's like lots of people say that you know, the burglar's going to go to the easiest house to get into. He's not going to be looking at the one with all the locks and the alarms and, you know, the difficult ones. He's going to be looking for an easy victim, in the same way that, you know, this is the case. So they're looking for an easy target, and you've got to really try not to be that. So you want to make sure that your posturing is correct. You want to make sure that your body language is correct. You want to be sure that your conversation is correct, so you're not engaging in that verbal tennis, as I said. You want to make sure that you're not acting like a victim and giving that aggressor a window of opportunity to come into that. And I mean, if you actually do manage to come out the other side and you survive the interview, then learn from it, you know. What did you do well? What did you do wrong? What could you have done better? What put you there in the first place? How can I avoid that happening altogether? You know, could I have been a bit more aware and seen that building up? Could I have seen that happening? Could I have been a bit more proactive in my actions to have avoided that in the first instance, you know? And it's one of those, a lot of the time when you talk to people, or when you're looking at it from the outside in, as I said, during my years doing security, I'd see this build up long before it actually happened. And that's where a good security person, a good doorman, is worth his weight in gold, because they will intervene at that point, not when it gets physical. They will stop it before it gets to that. So, you know, so that was a job that we were paid to do, and that was something that we were geared towards doing, was spotting problems before they became problems. So you would see the build up, you would see that, you know, conversation going on before it got to that point. So and so that's a skill in itself, and quite often people will say, well, you know, that's something that, well, who knows, you know, these things just happen, and almost invariably they don't just happen. Almost always there is a build up, there are cues, there are things that you could have seen, that you could have noticed or could have done to avoid that in the first instance. Now, I'm not suggesting that, you know, every victim is to blame. I'm not suggesting that if something bad like that's happened to you that you're at fault, because that's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is, you know, if you had some other skills, if you had some better skills with regards to the conflict management side of things, then maybe, just maybe, there might have been a slightly different outcome. So again, I'm certainly not saying the victim is to blame, because that's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is, you've got to get up to date with today's enemy. You've got to practice for the modern world. It's no good thinking that everybody's going to behave like they did a few hundred years ago, because, well, they're most certainly not. You know, today's adversary, today's attacker is a very, very devious, clever person, and we have to be able to understand the rules of this new game. Yeah, it's not sport, it's not competition. You know, it's not set up for a fair playing field, and we need to understand that. So, all right, we'll see you next time, guys.